Welcome. So a really special video today, as this one's going to be about the most important boot in my collection, and in terms of what it signifies for me and the sentimental reasons behind this boot as well. A super important part of my journey, having all this, and yeah, it's a special boot. I'll get into the story of why. But first, I'll show you what it is. Not a surprise to a lot of people, it's going to be a Puma boot. I love my Puma boots, especially speed boots, which this is. But essentially, let me first go over what the boot is, and then why this boot means so much to me in particular. So we'll get it out, we'll start there, and then we'll get on to the other part of the story. So it's probably a boot that a lot of people haven't seen before or remember the colorway or anything like that, unless you've seen a couple of photos on my channel previously. But what we have here is the Puma Evospeed 1 CM edition. So, like I said, some of you may have never seen this colorway before, but I'll break down what this boot and what this colorway is, and then, like I said, I'll explain why it means what it means to me. So first off, before I get into that, I just wanted to take a second and thank, in particular, James from Boot Wizard, who helped find these boots for me, source them from the United Kingdom, had his brother get them, send them to him in Ireland, and then send them to me over here in Australia. So I'll forever be grateful for being able to find this boot again, to be able to add it into my collection. So just wanted to mention that Boot Wizard, without him, without knowing him and his friendship, I would not have this boot in my collection again. So yeah, so getting into what it is. So we've got, like I said, a Puma Evospeed 1. So to break that down quickly, this is the synthetic version. I do actually have the leather version down here as well. Just grab that. So kangaroo leather in the front, in this red and orange colorway, but that's not important today. Talking about the CM. So we've got the synthetic microfiber upper, essentially breaking it down quickly. So we've got the micro texturing. You should be able to see the little dots. Let me just get the light right there. There you go. You can see all the little dots, all the micro texturing on the upper there. So it's more focused in the toe, and then it sort of dots and spaces out as it goes further back, giving you sort of more grip and micro texturing in the front where you'll be making contact, and less towards the back because you just don't need it. But the cool thing about this boot in terms of the colorway, so this is a CM edition. So what CM stands for and why this boot looks like it is. So CM stands for Cedella Marley. So Cedella Marley, bit of a clue, is Bob Marley's eldest daughter, and she's also a fashion designer. And back in 2012, when this boot came out, it was also the Olympics, and she did the Jamaican athletic team's teamwear, essentially. You know, the jersey that Usain Bolt ran his races in, she designed. And obviously Puma, Jamaica, athletics, football, all one big collaboration essentially, and they gave her an Evospeed to do a limited edition colorway on. So what we have here is sort of the Jamaican themed Evospeed. So we've got the green, the yellow, and the black. We've also got the Jamaican flag on the heel, and then another really special thing being Cedella Marley's boot, is that she's made it a tribute to her father, Bob Marley. So you can actually see here on the front, it's sort of a portrait smoked in effect of Bob Marley's face. So a really cool addition. From a distance, it sort of just looks like a sort of a camo graphic or something like that, but a really cool, really unique sort of addition and pattern on the boot. And then sort of the rest of the boot, we've got the green, the black, the silver. We've got the yellow stud tips on the green sole plate. And then another couple other technologies on this boot that are interesting. So yes, we mentioned the micro texturing. We also, inside the boot here, you can see that sort of yellow cage, sort of locking in and providing the lockdown with that internal, I think it's a net cage or something. I can't remember. It's been so long since I've spoken about this boot. Another funny thing that we had back in 2012, which wasn't very common, was the laces. So the laces down the bottom were really sort of tightly sort of knitted, whereas the laces at the top were a lot thicker, as you can sort of see there, the difference in sort of width. So it was nice and low and minimal where you're going to be making contact with the ball, but thicker at the top to make them easier to tie. You've also sort of got the, was it Duoflex? Yeah, Duoflex sole plate. So we don't actually see this as much, so it actually allows the boot to sort of bend and twist in more natural ways than what we see today and just having, you know, carbon fiber shanks and stuff like that. So it's funny we don't see this as much, and it's changed what we're looking for. But yeah, so essentially it's an Evospeed 1. The CM is the Sedella Marley and Bob Marley sort of additions to the boot and the colorway. And yeah, so why does this boot mean so much to me? So this is something that it was a bit of a crossroads moment in my life where I was always a bit of a fanatic about two things. So football boots, clearly, and the other thing is cars. So I'm not a mechanic. I've got no interest in, you know, getting under the hood and, you know, doing an oil change or anything like that. That's not me. But, you know, facts, figures, supercars, European luxury cars, all that sort of stuff was what I really had an interest in. And essentially, I was just working a part-time job. I was actually at a Wendy's. So in Australia, that's like an ice cream parlor and hot dogs. So I was working there, and essentially my older brother was giving me a crossroads moment of, you can't work at an ice cream parlor for your whole life. You know, you really like boots, you really like cars, you sort of need to pick one. And essentially, one of the local football boot shops, so literally just down the road from where I was working, was called the Football Shed. Now, the Football Shed was owned by Simon. Simon was an amazing person that he was welcoming to anyone who walked into his store. A really cool store with all, you know, the Premier League merchandise, shirts and everything. And then my favorite bit, the boot wall. So I was in there way more than he'd like me to, always picking up the new boots, always, you know, talking his ear off about the new boots and what's come out and how they compare, and, you know, just the obsession of football boots. So I got to know him really well, and sort of built some trust. And he mentioned to me one day, he goes, would you like to start sort of doing some reviews, some content on some of the stuff coming into the shop? And I, you know, jumped at the chance. I thought it was the coolest thing to be able to, you know, get given some football boots and talk about them, do a video, and yeah, like it's just the coolest thing. So this was the pair that had just come in, the Evospeed 1 CM, and he gave me the pair to sort of test out, to learn about, and then do a video review. Now, this is something, like I said, what, 2012, we're going back 13 years. So I wasn't on camera. I didn't have any sort of confidence in talking or anything, but I knew my facts. So it's essentially a video of, like, the camera's here, and it's looking at the boot with my hands, just pointing out that the laces are different, pointing out the Duoflex, pointing out the internal cage and what it is. And that video does exist on YouTube somewhere. It's not my best work, but yeah, it's something where, you know, football boots have always been, you know, a part of my life. I've always had an interest, and it's just really cool to have something from 13 years ago speaking about football boots. So yeah, and it was something that I didn't keep the boot, you know, it was still something he needed to go and sell and everything. And we did a couple other ones, and essentially this was happening right at that crossroads moment where I had to sort of pick if football boots or cars were going to be what I could build a career in. And again, we go back 13 years. YouTube was not what it is today. You know, most of the platforms that everyone's doing their content at the moment didn't exist. And yeah, I went, I love football boots, but I just don't think I can, you know, put food on the table and, you know, have a lifestyle by, you know, doing football boot content. So it's always been one of those what if crossroad moments in my life, and I think it's really cool that 13 years down the line, I've, you know, put this collection together, and I'm now back talking about football boots and reviewing boots again. So you may have guessed I did choose cars, and to this date is my profession, and I'm pretty good at that. The amount I know about football boots is dwarfed to my product knowledge when it comes to cars. So yeah, football boots and cars, I can talk your ear off about all day. But yeah, so one thing that again, it's the sentimental part of this is it was only a few years after I made that crossroads moment. Simon did pass away. Incredibly sad, and the football shed no longer exists. But yeah, so it's one of those things where seeing this boot again just brings back some very, very, very good memories. Yeah, it's something that I'll never forget how helpful and inviting Simon was to anyone in that shop. And that's also sort of how I want to conduct myself with this channel. If anyone's got a question, if I can help anyone pick the right boot for them, or, you know, show any interest in the same thing and help them in any way, that's what I'm trying to do with this channel. And yeah, so to have this back in the collection, it means so much. And yeah, I'll probably never wear it. These are brand new in box and they're going to stay perfect. But yeah, I just wanted to show a little bit of what this boot is, why it means so much, and, you know, just anyone who cares to watch this video. Again, it's not a review on the boot. This boot's irrelevant today, but just a bit of background to me and my story and why this boot is so important to me. And like I said, I can't thank Boot Wizard enough for helping me put this boot back into my collection, let alone it being brand new in box and perfect. So yeah, like I said, very different video to what I normally do, but it's one that, like I said, this boot means the most to me. If I had to get rid of every boot and just hold on to one, you know, maybe not to plan, but just the most important boot, you know, my Clippy Adlers are, you know, important. My Wave Cups I love. My OG T90s being one of my first top-end boots I ever had like that are all, you know, very significant. But this is where it all started. Yeah, again, just to thank Boot Wizard again, and also Andrew Lockhart. Without those two guys, I wouldn't be doing all this. I'd just be buying lots of football boots for no reason, showing none of it and talking to no one about it. I've met some really amazing people from starting this. And like I said, they were the ones that encouraged me to go and do it, to start it. So I can't thank them enough. They're always going to be like Simon is in this story about what, you know, he did and helped me. That's going to be Andrew Lockhart and James from the Boot Wizard forever for me. Always a massive part of my story and why I'm here doing this now. So yeah, might not have been the video you thought you were going to watch, but an amazing boot, means so much to me. I think it's also a super cool colorway as well. But yeah, that's kind of the point of the channel, of the video. I hope you've enjoyed sort of understanding a little bit more about myself and this boot and my story. But yeah, can't thank everyone enough. And yeah, again, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to like the video. If you want to see more actual football boot content and reviews, subscribe to the channel. And yeah, if you got this far into the video, thank you very, very, very much. I appreciate the support, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.